All right, we're back out here again on the Sunset Strip for part 2. We're gonna be talking about some more of my memories. We're gonna head over to the Viper Room and take a private tour. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So if you're ready, let's go see what we can find. Okay, so this is pretty wild. The stuff that I shot here in front of the Roxy and the Rainbow in the first part of the video, that was a while back. And when I showed up today to film stuff for part 2, I noticed there was a crew out here adding this post underneath the Roxy sign, which is a bummer because that was never there. And so it does change how the front of the Roxy looks. But they were adding this post. And if you look up here, they've also got a cable tied to the building, and then it's wrapped around the sign. And if you look right there, it looks like it was starting to break away from the building. You can see where it's cracking right there, and it's pulling apart. Oh my gosh, over on the other side, it's even worse. I don't know how well you can see that, but look at right there. It's completely breaking away from the building. Oh, and on the bottom too. I don't know if you can tell how much that's drooping. And that's crazy. Tell me, you were telling me the other day about the bathrooms over here. Tell me about this.
Well, there's 3 bathrooms, but originally that used to be an arcade.
The one all the way down at the end.
The women's bathroom over there, yeah. Like all through the 80s, that was like an arcade when arcade games were hot.
But you said you never saw it like that.
No, I lived through it.
Oh, you can't. You were saying you can't find pictures of it. That's what it was. You're trying to find.
I've never seen a picture of it in my life. As a kid, that's all I did. I'd be up here playing video games.
Tell me the deal with this room for the people who don't know.
This is they call it the Vampire's Lair. This was originally the private club, and it has all the members over here. It was like Ringo Starr, John Lennon, Alice Cooper. So it was like their private hangout area was up here.
Okay, all right.
Called the Hollywood Vampires.
So this right up here, I mean, we can't see right now, it's dark up there, but there's it's like a little private area with just a couple of little booths up there.
You know, you maybe fit 10 people in the back room and maybe 4 more up here. And then here's the old original reserve sign made of wood.
Let's see if I can see that. Scott and GIV are up there right now. I don't know what they're doing.
I didn't know it's that small. I remember being here back then, and I thought it's like way back, you know, but it's really tiny up there.
Show you up here. This
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Even here, right here.
a lot of crazy stuff happened up here. Well, I was gonna say back in the day, but I think a lot of crazy stuff still happens up here.
This is all original artwork, like all over the walls and stuff.
Like what era are we talking with the artwork here?
This stuff was all probably, I'd say, like 40s, 50s, before it was even the Rainbow.
Okay.
Back when it was like the Villanova. The Villanova had a like a nautical theme.
Right, which explains a lot of what we see.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like the ladder going up.
Which is crazy is they had another location in Newport Beach, and it was set up the exact same way. And they just recently sold it, so they were auctioning it off, and it was all like the same type of stuff we had at the Rainbow, because it was the same owners, and they kind of set it up the same way.
There's a Lemmy statue, and then Mike, what was Lemmy's seat? Where was?
Right here. Right in front of that game, like right in the corner. We had a big nice chair right there.
There's
Nice.
actually pictures online you can match up with there.
Now Scott was just pointing out to me that right over here is the ending of the "You Could Be Mine" video, right?
Right. So in the video, Arnold walks down from here.
Where is he coming from?
This direction.
Okay.
Roads coming out of this doorway here, and Slash actually stumbles because they were drinking all day, waiting for their call time. Arnold had a huge trailer set up here, so it was a big one. They come out, they do the whole scene, you get shots of Arnold. Thank you very much. And of course, they say actual waste of time or waste of energy at the end of the video. Like,
Right.
You know, no bot, you gotta terminate him, whatever. And apparently afterwards, Arnold's trailer was here. Arnold brought Guns N' Roses in his trailer, and they drank copious amounts of, I want to say Jaeger, copious amounts of something.
Right.
In Arnold's trailer.
Right over here.
Let me see if I can find the picture for you. Arnold's coming out right there at the door.
Is that Arnold? No, it's GIV.
I'm just pretending.
So Arnold's standing right over here, but whenever the camera is pointing at him, that's not what you see behind him. What you see behind him is actually a building on Sunset Boulevard, and it's this building right across the street. This is what you see behind Arnold. So he's supposedly standing right over there, but then whenever the camera is pointing at him, he's standing right over here. They're kind of going back and forth, doing a little bit of that Hollywood camera trickery. Another thing that was filmed here was the Guns N' Roses Estranged music video. Sunset Boulevard was all water with dolphins swimming in it. It was a little bit more of a drone shot, but you see Axl walking down the sidewalk right here, right underneath the Roxy sign, while dolphins are swimming by him down Sunset Boulevard. And then if we walk right down here where Scott and German and Venice are, in front of the Rainbow, there was some stuff filmed right in front of this building as well. And the music video is kind of a weird angle, but you see the Rainbow sign, and then there was a billboard right there on top of the Rainbow, and that's where the dolphins come out of the billboard. I don't know what the dolphins were about, but that's where that billboard was, right up there. And then when it's time for Slash's guitar solo, he comes out of the Rainbow right here, and you can see this neon entrance sign behind him. And then you see him coming out onto the sidewalk. You can see the Rainbow sign behind him. And then Slash is rolling down the sidewalk right here, doing his guitar solo. Yeah, do it for me, Scott. So just imagine if Scott were floating. So basically, Slash is floating down the street right here, doing a guitar solo. Scott is demonstrating for us. So I wanted to show you, for those of you that have never been to the Rainbow, or maybe you've never been to Los Angeles, this is the Rainbow's outdoor patio and bar, and it's been renamed Lemmy's Lounge in honor of Lemmy Kilmister, the lead singer of Motorhead. He was a regular here at the Rainbow, and you could always find him sitting down at the end of the bar. They also have lots of cool photos and memorabilia on the walls from over the years. Definitely way too much for me to show you in one video. This is Mario Maglieri, often referred to as the King of the Sunset Strip. He was the owner of the Rainbow and the Whiskey, and also Mike's grandfather. And just outside of the Rainbow's patio, you'll find one of two murals paying tribute to Lemmy. Now, something that you gotta remember is back in the day, this was the place to be. All the bands wanted to play at the Whiskey and the Roxy and hang out at the Rainbow, especially all throughout the 80s during the hair metal days. This was the spot, and it was right here on this stretch of sidewalk between the Roxy and Gazari's, which is right down there. We're gonna get to that in a minute. This is where all the bands were hanging out and passing out flyers and promoting themselves. And basically, any night of the week, you could come out here, and right here on this stretch of sidewalk, you would find all those bands hanging out. Everyone from Poison to Quiet Riot, Warrant, Rat, they were all right here passing out flyers. And if you're someone that's come down to the Sunset Strip a lot, you've probably walked on this stretch of sidewalk tons of times and never really thought about the fact that in the 80s, you could just come out here and run into all those guys. It's pretty wild. Okay, this building right here on the corner, this is now a club called One Oak. Before that, it was the Key Club for many years. I went to a lot of shows at the Key Club. Before that, it was Billboard Live, a very short-lived club. But originally, back in the 80s, this was Gazari's.
Hi, I'm Bill Gazari, the godfather of rock and roll, and welcome to Gazari's on the Strip in Hollywood, California.
And if you've ever seen The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, the metal years, then you probably know about Gazari's. A lot of that was filmed here, and you would know that Gazari's was a big part of the hair metal scene. So again, if you're a fan of hair metal, you've probably heard of Gazari's, and if you ever wondered where it was, this is where it was. And you know, talking about those wild times that used to happen down here on the Sunset Strip, it makes me think that I also had some pretty crazy times down here. I mean, not only working here, but I also played a lot of shows at the Whiskey and Roxy, just, you know, because I knew Mike and I knew the people that booked over here. So in the 90s, I was booking a lot of shows down here, especially at the Roxy, but I also played my fair share of shows at the Whiskey as well. But yeah, so there's a lot of crazy memories that happen out here in front of these clubs, just up and down the Strip. I could probably do an entire video just talking about all the wild stuff that we saw. Now, while I was working here on the Sunset Strip, I wasn't worried about the wild times or the celebrities I might see, or really even the shows that I had to book. I had something more important on my mind. I was worried about lunch. And so right now I'm gonna talk about some of the places where I used to go to get lunch, starting with this place right here, right next door to the Whiskey. This used to be a place called Duke's Coffee Shop, and it was here from the 60s all the way up until, I wanna say, like 2012. I didn't come here too much, but every once in a while, I would come down to Duke's and get a cheeseburger and fries. I mean, I don't remember it really being anything special, but I thought it was still worth mentioning because, like I said, Duke's was here for a really long time. And then right next door to Duke's, not a place where I would come to get lunch, but where Rock and Riley's now is, this used to be a place called the Cat Club, and it was owned by Slim Jim Phantom from the Stray Cats. And this is where a band called Headcat used to play, which was a pretty famous band down here on the Sunset Strip. It was led by Lemmy Kilmister from the band Motorhead. And so this is where they used to play. And then right across the street, at the time when I worked here, this was an Arco AM/PM. We had a mini fridge in the office, and part of my job was to keep that mini fridge full of Pepsi. So whenever it would start getting low, Mike would hand me a 20 and send me over to the AM/PM to get more Pepsi. Also, every once in a while, we would come to that AM/PM for lunch. I would walk across the street and get us hamburgers and hot dogs and corn dogs. And I remember it being pretty good. I'm sure that it was actually absolutely disgusting and probably has a lot to do with why I have stomach problems as an adult. Now, across the street on the corner, when I was working here, this was an Oz, the novelty shop. But if you go back further into the 80s, this was a record store called Licorice Pizza. And a movie came out a few years ago that borrowed its name from that record store. So it was a pretty famous record store here in Los Angeles. So there's definitely some history over here on this block. Another thing I used to like to do on my lunch break was walk down to Tower Records. So sometimes I would grab something to eat really quick and then walk down here to Tower Sunset. Now, Tower Sunset has got a lot of history. A lot of bands played in the parking lot, played in the store. Elton John used to frequent this location. I saw Weezer perform here, Prince performed here. Unfortunately, it closed a long time ago and sat vacant. When they put out the Tower documentary, they redressed it as Tower Records, and it sat like that for a really long time until just recently Supreme moved in. And so that's what it is now. It's the Supreme store. But to Supreme's credit, they actually wanted to leave some of the Tower Records signage up because they knew all the history that happened here. But whoever owns the name Tower told them if they leave any Tower Records signage up, they would sue the pants off of them. So unfortunately, they weren't able to leave any of that up. And there is a skate bowl in there. I don't know if you can see it, it's right there. And I've never been inside, but I don't know, maybe we'll go in and check it out. All right, so I tried to walk into Supreme and film the skate bowl that they have in there, but literally the second that I stepped through the door, I was stopped by the security guard and told, "Sir, just so you know, there's no vlogging allowed inside the store." So I was like, okay, and I walked back out. I find it kind of funny, a place that, you know, started out as just a skate company, and they've now got valet parking and about 15 security guards in there. I don't know, kind of strange. Whatever, I don't need to go in there. All right, so going back to lunch, directly across the street from where Tower Records used to be was my favorite place to eat on Sunset. It was located, I think it was one of these. I think it was this one right here. It was a place called TNT, and it was the best Greek food that I ever had. Now, I'm sure there's probably better Greek food, but I said it was the best Greek food that I ever had. This really delicious gyros, really delicious French fries, and surprisingly, one of the best personal pizzas I've ever had. I know, it's weird, but they had really, really good personal pizzas. So yeah, great gyros, great fries, great pizzas. Has anyone else ever eaten at TNT? Have you ever heard of TNT? I would love to know what happened to that place. I really miss it. Now, right over there on the corner used to be Turner's Liquor, a liquor store that was there for many years. It can be seen quite a few times in the movie Night at the Roxbury. It's probably come out in lots of other movies as well because, like I said, it was there for a really long time. And it just closed, I want to say like within the last 6 months. And it looks like it's just going to open up now as another liquor store. It's now going to be Roro's Liquor. Now, another memory I have from working down here is the cookie guy. So I used to also go into all of the liquor stores around here, and one day I walked into this liquor store on the left, and as I was walking towards the back, I noticed a guy standing behind a table with a small oven on it. He's wearing a chef's hat and an apron, and he's selling fresh baked cookies and little jugs of milk. He would have actually been standing right here in front of this window with his back against the glass. He tells me that he's been making cookies for his friends for years and that they were so good that his friends convinced him to quit his job and become the cookie guy full time. So of course, I bought some cookies from him and a couple of jugs of milk, and we loved him. And we would always go visit the cookie guy until one day, without warning, he was just gone. Does anybody know what happened to the cookie guy? So here we are at the world famous Viper Room. This place has been here for a long time and it's gone by a few different names. But in the 90s, it became famous as the Viper Room. Johnny Depp, Christina Applegate, Adam from the Counting Crows used to bartend here. This is where the Pussycat Dolls got their start. This was always a big celebrity hangout. And of course, it was right there on the sidewalk in front where River Phoenix sadly passed away. And unfortunately, that's how the Viper Room kind of got known in the 90s. But a lot more has happened here than just that. And right now we're gonna head inside and get an exclusive behind the scenes tour. All right, so we're gonna head inside the Viper Room right now. Let's see if they're,
Hello.
Hey!
Hey, come on in.
Thank you so much.
That's the downstairs bar right there. It's like kind of a little VIP zone, or acoustic acts, or DJs, or overflow, or band room.
Now you do merch down here sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we're heading up into the main room.
They set at 5:30. Hi guys. Here we go. Welcome. But you were mentioning Valley Girl. You know that shot in Valley. I think you can see the pillars in Valley Girl.
Yeah. The Plimsolls playing up there. Not only is this where the Plimsolls rocked the stage in the movie Valley Girl, as I've mentioned before, this is also where the Go-Go's perform in the Our Lips Are Sealed music video. And speaking of the movie Valley Girl, right over here is where Randy and Julie and Fred and Stacy would have been sitting. And if you ever wondered what it looked like to be on the stage while performing, here you go. I mean, the Viper Room is a really small club, but when you got a sold out show and this place is packed, it's still a really good crowd. So I'm gonna head back downstairs so I can give you a proper look around the lower level. On the left side, this is that long dark hallway that we walked through when I first got here. That's the main entrance into the Viper Room. And this is the downstairs bar.
Down here, I mean, supposedly Mickey Cohen and Bugsy Siegel owned this, you know, and there was people, strange things happened down here in the day.
Okay, all right.
You know?
That's back when it was, it was the Central.
It was the Central, it was Filthy McNasty's, it was the Melody Room. It's had lots of.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a dance bar, it was a biker bar, it's been around since the 20s, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of things. They had guests like celebrity, the Adam Duritz, it's a known story. Adam Duritz and Christina Applegate were down here.
Yeah.
And I knew Christina from a band on Married with Children that I was in. Long story, but Christina Adam. I was fanboy of Counting that record. That was a great record.
Yeah.
I was fanboy of that record, and he would hang a lot. But yeah, he would be like, these bars hanging down here. So when I first started, it was amazing to me.
That's
know?
awesome.
And then you see like Michael Hutchins and Helena Christensen sitting on the couch over here, while they're freaking bartending, and I was like, whoa.
Wild times.
Yeah.
Man. And then you were talking about the upstairs bar. You were saying people. Who were you saying sitting down at the end of the bar?
Oh, one of my first nights working here was Pussycat Dolls.
Yeah.
And again, but it was like 20 years ago, Pussycat Dolls. So it was, they would have different, Christina was one of them.
Yeah.
But also Scarlett Johansson was at the end of the bar in a teddy practicing her lines while I'm setting up the freaking bar. Or like back then it was Steel Panther and stuff like that. Not Steel Panther, back then it was called Metal School.
I remember Metal School.
Metal
Yeah.
School, and they
Yeah.
hung grates over the, like, I think it was Dale or Josh's idea. Josh Richmond was in, he was in River's Edge. That's another older movie. Yeah. They hung these grates from the ceiling, chain link fence with like baby dolls tied to it and stuff.
Wait, was Josh Richmond in Metal School?
He kind of had some. He and Dale were kind of Metal Schools, kind of brought them in. I don't know which managed them at that time back then. The cool thing here is this is a two-way mirror. And it's a little private room. It can be for celebrities that want to hang out or a band at backstage. Again, right now it's a bit of a gear storage, but you can watch a show and people can't see you hanging out here.
Right.
You know, it's grown and it's shrunk over the years. You know, back in the day it was here. You know, but the window was smaller. It's like CBGB's, but like clean version of CBGB. Functional and clean. But yeah, lots of. I mean, this thing changes by the week. I should do a progression of every week of the stickers.
I think I should add a sticker while I'm here.
You definitely should.
Now the Viper Room is definitely a small club. It's just this room and then the downstairs area, which is even smaller. But so many legendary artists have performed on this stage, and this is just a small part of that list. The first name you said, was it Prince?
Oh, Prince, yeah.
So we got to talk about that.
You want a Paisley Park story?
Yes, absolutely.
We were on tour with Nika Costa, playing Minnesota. Prince didn't go to First Avenue where they filmed Purple Rain because, I don't know, there's some beef with the ownership or something, I don't know. But so, they invited Nika Costa over to Paisley Park afterwards. Yeah, Prince is one of the reasons I dress funny. I love Prince. Born the same day as Prince.
Oh,
yeah,
June 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Happy birthday, just passed.
Yeah, still June. So we drove to Paisley Park with them, you know, because we were all touring together in our bus.
Yeah.
And I'm freaking out. I'm like, is that like Lake Minnetonka or whatever the heck? Whatever, all the freeway signs.
Yeah.
It looks like a cat, you know, it's just a glowing thing we drive up to. So we go to the door and the guy's all like, this is a meat-free building. You can't eat meat. We're going to order you food, but you can't. If you want to eat meat, you gotta eat it on your bus. So they order us food, and then they're like, also no swearing. You can't swear in here. If you do, you have to put, you know, give them $20 or something.
Yep, that's Prince.
So we go back to this little club about the size of this. They're jamming, and Prince walks out, and he's like, "Where's the tape? Where's the tape?" You know, he's asking where the tape is, in that little Prince voice, and he goes, "You don't have the tape? I didn't think you do." And then he comes back with his videotape. He had a videotape of the performance at First Avenue. He puts it in this this little tape player thing, and it shows up on like some eyeball movie screen thing.
Yeah.
It's like an eyeball that's a movie. It was just so bizarre. There were like dove cages, you know, and there were like Prince symbols on the purple floor, and the Prince symbols were, and I guess Nika was recording with him, and I'm like, you got to tell me everything. You got to tell me what happened. And she said that she cursed, so he said, you owe me $20 or something. So she wrote him a check that said, here's your $20, and wrote a check for $40. Back to the list. System of a Down got signed out of here by Rick Rubin. Oasis, already said it. Johnny Marr, Smith, Alan Parsons, Kings of Leon. We opened for Kings of Leon. Elvis Costello, Urge Overkill. Jack Black got up and played tambourine with Urge Overkill. Nash then went downstairs later and DJ'd. Smashing Pumpkins, a couple times. Everclear, The Romantics. Queens of the Stone Age played for a 12-pack. Taylor Hawkins with Dave Grohl helped. Shiny Took Guns, Signed Out of Here. Justice, Maroon 5. Natalie Cole, Slash a few times. Him, Pussycat Dolls, I said earlier.
Now, over the years, I've been to a lot of really cool shows at the Viper Room, but I've also been lucky enough to play at the Viper Room quite a few times. And actually, the last band that I was in, we were together for about 10 years, and we played our very last show right here at the Viper Room. We also took our very last band photo right in front of the Viper Room, right underneath the sign and marquee. So I've got my own special memories right here at the Viper Room. Now, since I'm talking about my time on the Sunset Strip, not just playing down here, but also working here, I'm sure some of you have got to be wondering, what were some of the wildest things that I saw? What were some of the biggest celebrities that I saw? Unfortunately, there really weren't too many big celebrities that I saw while I was working here. Like I said, I worked here in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it was kind of a weird time for music, especially for rock music. We were booking a lot of like neo metal, kind of like rap metal. I definitely was not into most of the bands that we were booking. One celebrity memory that I have, when my wife and I were first dating, we were out on a date one night, and I told her I got to stop off at my office and grab something. Honestly, I was probably just trying to impress her. I probably didn't need anything from my office, but I wanted her to see that I had an office at the Whiskey. So yeah, we were out, and I was like, hey, I got to stop at my office really quick and grab something. I don't remember the name of the band, but Travis Barker from Blink-182, he had a side band that was kind of big for a little bit, and they were playing at the Whiskey that night. So as we were walking through the backstage area, we walked right by Travis Barker. And when we got into my office, my wife was like, we just walked by Travis Barker. And again, I was probably trying to impress her, and I was like, what? Who? Oh, okay, yeah, whatever. But yeah, so that was something. And then, okay, I have one other funny celebrity memory. So one night I was in the box office at the Whiskey. I was in there by myself, and all of a sudden this kid comes walking up to the box office. Looks like he's about, I don't know, like 14 years old, short, pudgy kid, glasses, kind of nerdy looking. And he just walks up and he's just standing there staring at me. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? Can I help you? Doesn't say anything, just keeps staring at me. He has this like really cocky grin on his face. And I'm like, hello? Can I help you? Do you need something? Doesn't say a word, just keeps staring at me with this cocky grin. And I'm like, hello, what do you need? All of a sudden, the door swings open and one of the security guards pops his head in, and he's like, come on, man, be cool, let him in. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know who he is. He's not saying anything to me. Why would I let him in? And he's like, dude, be cool. Come on. It's Ozzy's kid. And I'm like, I don't care whose kid it is. Why would I let him in for free? He needs to speak to me. And so, yeah, it was Jack Osbourne. This was probably like, I want to say, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years before they got the Osbournes TV show. So no one really knew what Jack and Kelly Osbourne looked like. And so, yeah, the security guard was kind of kept going. He was like, oh, come on, Mike knows him. He always lets him in. He's cool. I'm like, fine, whatever. Just go in, get out of here. But yeah, I found it really funny that he would just walk up and not say anything. Like, I get it. Okay, your dad's Ozzy Osbourne. That's awesome. Like, yeah, so you can walk down to the Sunset Strip and basically get into any club. But the fact that he felt that he didn't need to say anything, that he could just stand there and get what he wanted, like, really bizarre to me. And there's one more that I almost forgot. While I was working there, Alanis Morissette did, I believe it was a surprise show at the Whiskey. Now, I've never been an Alanis Morissette fan at all, but at the time, she was a huge star, so it was still pretty cool. So I was at my desk working when we got word that she was downstairs getting ready to sound check. It was almost time for me to go to lunch, and normally I would just go out the back door, but this time I just happened to cut through the club because honestly, I was a bit curious. Now, when I got to the dressing rooms, I noticed that there were rose petals on the ground, and those continued all the way out into the club and down onto the stage. So I guess she has somebody that spreads rose petals for her to walk on. But so when I got downstairs, she was on stage sound checking, and I got to admit, it was pretty cool to see her performing in such a small club with basically nobody in it. I thought a cool way to end a video about the Sunset Strip would be to actually go to a show at the Whiskey A Go-Go. Tonight they have Pretending, the Pretenders cover band, and Fast Times, an 80s cover band that my wife and I used to actually go see when we were dating, so you know they've been around for a while. All right, so there it is, a look at the rainbow, the whiskey, some other stuff here on the Sunset Strip, a little bit of my memories. I have to give a huge thank you to my buddy, Big Mike. Mike, thank you so much for showing us around. Really appreciate it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. I had to just turn the camera back on. Mike and I were just standing here. We were just talking about old times, just like all this stuff that we did when we were like 13 years old. And he just said the funniest thing to me. He was asking about, you know, about my family, like what's going on with them. And he started talking about my dad. And what did you say?
The first person to ever introduce me to a bean burrito from Taco Bell was your dad. and you know, since then, that's what I order from Taco Bell is the bean burrito. And that was the first person. I remember getting that first bean burrito and remembering how much I loved that bean burrito. And,
dude.
You know, with the mild sauce.
That's right, because you would come over, whenever my friends would come over, they'd hang out all day, all night, and then we'd like, when it was dinner time, we'd jump in the back of my dad's truck.
And go get Taco Bell.
Yeah, we'd go get food. My dad would buy Taco Bell or whatever for, you know, whoever, my friends that were there. And so, so he made you get a bean burrito, and you've been on it ever since.
That was the first time I ever tried a bean burrito. Yeah, it was from your dad.
That's amazing.
I'll never forget that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dad, for introducing the bean burrito.
Thank you.